Hey YouTube, so gonna do another basics video. I'm gonna do this one uncut, just however long it takes me to design what I'm gonna design, and we're gonna call it good. So if you're interested in that, stick around. I'm currently printing a frog that I designed a little bit ago, actually probably last night, and I'm gonna try and cast that in Alumalite Vac-50 and then create a plastisol version of it so I can use it for fishing in the spring. So I decided if I'm going to try and design something else today, I might as well do a basics on it, and if that's something you're into, stick around, and it'll be just an uncut video of me going through. We're going to use Meshmixer, Autodesk Meshmixer, which is a free program for this one. Not going to be cut, not going to be very aesthetically pleasing, but if you want to learn kind of some basics of Meshmixer, stick around. I'm not an expert in it, but I'm going to give her a rip. I'll go through with how I do things, and if something interests you, stick around. So I'm going to go to Meshmixer. This is the latest version, but for some reason it constantly tells me that there's a new version out. But when I go to, there actually might be one more release, but this one is 3.4.35, so I didn't really get it for a while. But anyway, I mean, I got it recently, so I don't know why it says that. But when you open Meshmixer, it's a little different environment, but I like to use Meshmixer for organic things, and we're going to specifically be using the sculpting tools for this, because I have something, if I have something in my head and I just want to kind of sculpt it out, then I'm going to not try and do it blocky like in Tinkercad. I'm not going to try and make it blocky. I mean, you can make some really nice looking things in Fusion 360 as well, but it's just not as easy to use Fusion as it is Meshmixer, and we'll go through that here. So I'm just gonna, I think we'll make another frog, because why not, and then I'll try and cast that one in the future video too. So if you wanna, if that's something that interests you at the, I mean, you might want to watch this to the end and see if I just annoy the heck out of you or not, but try and subscribe so you can see that video where we're actually going to implement this in reality, not just on a computer. So anyway, it's a little bit different. You have to either start with an STL or import one of these deals. So this bunny is kind of the Meshmixer bunny. It loads in there if you want it. This is a sphere and then a plane itself. So we're just going to start with the sphere. So the movement is the same as Simplify 3D, a little bit different than Fusion 360. At least I have it set up a little bit different. You can probably go into the settings and change it around a little bit, but I have it so right click is orbiting, so it moves around the object. Then I have my middle roller of my mouse can move the object all the way around. So what we're going to do is we got to think what we want to make. And I'm just going to do another frog because why not, right? So I'm going to go over here to sculpt. I'm going to do a symmetry line right away. So anything I do on this side of the sphere is going to be echoed on the other. You can even see it shows you the mouse you're working on with the halo, that's kind of essentially where your brush is, right? And then it has the other red dot on the other side of the symmetry line. So anything you do on the left side will be echoed on the right side. It'll be the same. So technically you only have to do it to half of the sphere, and it should do it to the other side. So what we're going to do is, I think, if we want to have this be a frog, we have to kind of stretch this out. So what I like to do with that is I do drag, and then here's where you can set, once you go to brushes, you go to drag, on this properties drop down, you can increase the strength or decrease the strength. So if we go to like 100% strength on this and we drag something, you can see it really drags it out like a champ. And then I'm just going to control Z to get rid of that. So then if you go all the way down to like 10, for example, it still drags it, but it's not as, you can't see it quite as well. This is mostly evident when you go into something like, let's say an inflate. So this will just take an area and make it larger. It doesn't quite add the triangles to the mesh like a draw would. If you draw on it, it's actually adding essentially another layer, so it's adding triangles. But if you do this inflate, it just makes that one area bigger. But you can see a more dramatic difference between strengths with this. So if you hit 100% on that, right, it comes right out in the size you want. So we can make the size bigger, right? So now if we go to like a strength of like 10, you can see it's not, I mean, it's there, and if we change the view, you can see it bulged out. It bulged out a little bit, but it didn't do it was nowhere near what we were doing at the 100. So I'll do a size, let's see, let's bring us back to the sphere, the basic sphere itself. We'll go do like a, well, we'll get off of that inflate. We'll go to drag, and we'll do like a strength of 50 or so, and we'll do a pretty decent size. And the depth is fine, I'm okay with that. You just got to play around the settings to make it work with what you want to make it work with. So I'm just going to kind of bring this out. Let's see if I can't make this a little bigger. That's cool, but that's not what we're looking at. It's not what we want. So I'm gonna take this, and I want to be in the correct orientation so the computer knows which way I want to drag it. I'll go something like that, probably. Something like that. And it might not look like exactly like we want it right now, but there's tricks we can do to make it look like that. As long as we get our basic form down. Do something like that, and then I'm going to pull out some legs. Kind of figure out which way I want this to go. Yeah, I don't know, looks about right. I'm going to start my legs and whatever thing I'm trying to make. I'm going to start them just bigger than I want them to actually be, because we're gonna bring them down later. So if the legs are out like that, yeah, that'd probably be all right. I'll make them about that long. Oop, didn't want to go that way. Nope, didn't want to go that way. I'll build that up in a little bit. Something like that. So then I need a foot to come out here. And I want the foot to kind of angle down a little bit. So as I'm doing this, I'm kind of thinking about where the water line is for this future bait, because this eventually will be a lure, right? So I'm thinking about the water line as the grid. So I'm trying to think about kind of where the center of gravity will be on it as a finished product and things like that. And it's just playing with it, right? So then you do this, that, and the other thing. What you don't want to do is end up with any creases, because it's really hard to get the creases out, right? So I'm going to basically stop it right there, because there's a bit of a crease on the bottom. But if you end up with creases, they're really hard to get out later. So you want to try and pull those out. But I'm okay with that as a basic form. I might try and get this out a little bit. Something like that. Just kind of bringing it up out of there. Just so it gives a little bit more backbone to what we're going to work on later. Alright, so now it looks real weird and just something like we don't know what we're doing, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the draw function. I'm going to turn up the strength a little bit. Probably keep the same size. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add to it, right? So I'm going to start filling this in like I was working in clay. Kind of start to see something in my head that I'm like, oh, okay, that I could see that being this, that, or the other thing. And in our case, we want it to be a frog. So we have to think about that as we're doing it. And you get a feel for this over time on what produces the best result, right? So I feel like this is giving me a little too much material each time I click, so I'm going to go over and I'm going to bring the strength down a little bit. So then I'm just going to kind of fill in what I feel like I should fill in. I mean, there's no wrong or right to any of this, really. You talk to some fisher people, you talk to some anglers, and they will tell you that, oh, you could throw that on a hook right now and it'll catch a fish. So it's really kind of one of those things. It's all about what you want to produce artistically. And you should look at it like that too. Don't just look at it as a finished product. Look at it as, oh, I'm going to create something I'd be proud of, you know. I'd be proud of showing off to a buddy or something. Even if it doesn't catch fish. So like, for example, this right here right now, probably wouldn't be proud to show off to my buddies. Be a little weird. But alright, so now I'm just gonna go in here and I'm gonna start growing up these legs little by little. Get the connections kind of worked out to where they look pretty good. So there's another program that's a little bit more user friendly than Meshmixer for this, and that's called Sculptress. And that one is specifically geared towards sculpting on the computer. And it works, but honestly it's about the same as Meshmixer doing this type of work. So it's kind of like, well, I mean, this works plenty fine. Why mess with it? So then I'm going to inflate around the feet. I'm going to turn up our strength a little bit, probably bring our size down a little. I might not inflate. I don't know how I feel about that. It's always best to just drag if possible, because then you're not influencing those triangles of the mesh, so it doesn't have to interpret as much. The problem is it creases quite a bit when you do it, so you have to make sure. See if we have this. Alright, I'll model this problem for you. When you have a crease like this and you try to edit it in the future, it kind of turns into these little dimples that hardly ever go away, like this. And that triangle then of that crease is locked into that. I mean, you got to take it all the way out here, right, to get rid of that thing. It's still in there. You can see it. Right? And then that overlap creates problems in your STL, like tons of problems later on. So we want to try and not get any type of dimples or creases or anything. What we want to do, ideally, is just pull this out, which we're trying to do, and we'll get it. We'll get it. Just takes a little bit of finessing and time. Like, you can draw it up a little bit like this. As long as you keep it moving, it usually works pretty well. Like that. But then this is also influencing those triangles, remember? So we are increasing the complexity of the mesh. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to deal with later. So let's try dragging again and see what happens here. There we go. If I didn't get cocky with it. So now we're just making it a little bit bigger. So I like real big paddle feet on the frog, right? Got to displace a lot of water as it goes through the surface of the water. So we'll make it super big. Make it almost comically big with this one, I guess. Why not? Why not, right? Enthralling content, isn't it? All right, so now you're starting to see kind of where we're headed with this, and then I'm going to kind of do some grabbing. Get out of don't like how that's working. Let's do, we can draw and see if we can't add to these legs a little bit. Because we want the legs. Wasn't moving fast enough there. Let's do a bigger size. So I'm just drawing on, essentially just making it thicker, right? So we can have more material to work with. That's why I have it all the way up, and I don't really care how it looks for right now, because we will be using a different function for that, but I'm going to bring the size down a little. I'm going to get in here so we don't end up with any creases. Creases are our enemy. All right. All right, so now what we can do is start refining a little bit. And to do that, you can either use the shrink smooth option or the bubble smooth option. And the shrink smooth tends to take away material, and the bubble smooth kind of leaves that material there. So we'll use the shrink smooth for right now. We'll set it to like 30. Sure, but we'll use a little bigger size, right? So now you can see that it's starting to remesh those areas and smooth it out, right? That's why we didn't quite have to worry about all the bumpiness, because it will smooth it. And then I'll probably turn the strength up a little bit. See, now we almost got a dimple there, but I think we worked it out. Yeah, it should be okay. We're still going to have an issue there. Maybe not. It might be able to work it out. So then we're just going to go through and have this smooth it out. And I'm just going to turn it all the way up, because we're doing this quick. Doing this quick. And the good part about having the symmetry on both sides is that if you have a better angle, like let's say I wanted to get rid of this, well, I have a better angle on this side, so it allows me to hit it from both sides to kind of smooth it out, which is nice. Okay, so we'll go back. I don't know. Just end up, you just kind of want to have a view of something in your mind first, I guess, is the big takeaway from this. You got to kind of have a plan when you start, because if you get halfway through and you're like, oh, now what? Like, what's a frog look like? then it starts to get real annoying real quick. But if you just have it kind of in your mind, think about it for a little bit. The flip side of that is just go out and create something anyway. Like I said before, fish don't know what a frog is. They really don't. It's mostly just for us to say, hey, look at this cool thing I made. Fish don't care. They don't have herpetology courses. They don't really care. I think herpetology is amphibians, right? I hope so. It was never my thing. I was fish. Ichthyology was my thing. Let's see here. Alright, alright. I'm not, you know, I'm not gonna... I won't really hate on that. That'll work. So then I'm going to try and smooth out this bottom of the feet, and this is going to be pretty important as well, because we are going to want to have quite a bit of material in here on the feet. And I will go over that in a minute. We're not really going to care too much about what these look like, because believe me, it'll all make sense in a little bit. It'll all make sense in a little bit. Or it won't. Or it won't. Either way. You can either watch me fail, or maybe this will work out pretty well. Who knows? We'll see. So what we're gonna do here, essentially, is we're going to try and do a plane cut on these across the bottom, right? Across the bottom of these. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and build these up to the point where they're at least on the similar plane here, so we can cut those off and then actually have a printing surface. So I'm just roughly building them up for now. And then refine them. That seems to be basically the sculpting way of doing stuff, at least I've found. There's, of course, there's always different ways of doing stuff. This isn't exactly how everybody should or will do things. It's just how I do it. It works. For me, anyway. Alright. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking this, and we're going to start doing what we do to all of them. We're gonna either shrink smooth or bubble smooth it, so I'm just gonna shrink smooth because why not? I'm gonna go a little bit stronger. And I'm going to flatten out. There's a flatten brush as well. So we're going to take that and I'm going to try and push this a little bit flatter. this, check it every once in a while. And I'll go back, smooth it out, essentially get rid of some of those triangles. Then I'm gonna flatten it again. Kind of see where we're at. Like, meh, I don't know. I don't know if I quite like it, but we'll see. That's looking a little bit better. Then back to smoothing. See how quick that the non-complex areas, how quick that smooths it at 100%. So we're gonna go down to like 40. Then I'm gonna bring it back to bubble smooth so I don't lose so much material. Try and smooth out these legs a little bit. There we go. It's looking better. It's looking better. Yeah. I'll smooth this out a little bit here. So I think what we're gonna do for this guy is I actually like how these feet are set up. So I think what we're gonna do, we're just gonna try and get kind of a little pocket for the water to hit these feet as it goes through. So I'm hoping I'm making a pocket here, but I'm not sure. A little bit. Bring the size down, depth up a little bit. Let's do try flatten again. There we go. Push some of that material out of the way. Flatten seems to be really, it creates a lot of triangles in the mesh. You can almost see the computer slowing down a little bit there. Just didn't want to do it. Just was not a fan. So I kind of like that. I don't, you know, it's one of those things, you just gotta try it. I don't know if it's gonna work or not. Might work. I'm just gonna kind of blend these edges in a little bit. Just a little bit. What happened there? Freaking out. See, that's where you're going to start getting those that we were talking about earlier, those creases. If you use bubble smooth, you end up getting that those creases come back. So if you start noticing that, I usually go to like shrink smooth, and it seems to not to get that, because instead of like trying to keep that material, it just takes a small amount off. So it seems to help. You still get it a little bit, but not bad. Ding. All right. So now what we're gonna do, I'm okay with those legs. I mean, they're not perfect, but we're 3D printing, so I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's not gonna get that much detail out of it anyway. You can take as much time or as little time as you want with it. So we're gonna go into plane cut. Plane cut, you can see one side is transparent and the other side isn't. If you so choose, up here on the cut type in the plane cut menu, if you can say discard half, that half, or you can say, you know, keep it or whatever. But the key thing to remember here is that the transparent side will be cut if you say discard half, right? So I'm gonna go, let's see, I'm gonna go back into it, and I'm gonna get it to 90 degrees, and you can see right here you can see this dial show up once you start moving anything in Meshmixer. So there's this, once your mouse goes to that dial, it'll force you to the specific degree. So I want 90, but if you go outside of that, you can go to, you know, very high resolution with it, right? So I'm gonna go to like 90, and then I'm gonna flip it around because I didn't do that correctly. Okay. So now I am going to establish where I want the feet to cap off at. So I'm gonna go like right about meow. Yeah, sure. That gives us enough space on the ankles. We'll be all right. So I'm gonna accept, and that's gonna discard that back half of those feet. And then I'm gonna go in and just touch up where I had it before. So we'll do kind of this number. We'll do a we might do it. Nah. We'll do it in a second. Okay, so we got way too big there. Now I'm just gonna kind of make this fit a little better. As long as we still have that flat area that we can print, have this print, we'll be all right. You could always split this model in half or something like that to print it, but what's the point? Just print it standing up. If your printer can handle that, which most modern printers nowadays should be able to handle that. like a champ. So there we go. Good enough. So as it's coming across there, right? I guess it would be opposite for you. But as the water's coming across, the idea is that it'll hit the kind of the rake of the foot, and then it'll lift up and it'll cause those feet to. It's the idea anyway. You got to test these things, got to prototype these things. But all right, so now we got to do the body of this guy. So what I'm going to do here again is just do another plane cut, but I'm going to do it on the top of this thing. I'm going to do it a little bit down like this, potentially. That was stupid. But you can do this and it'll run the plane cut for you, which is really, really handy. So at any direction, just click and drag, the plane cut comes in. So I'm going to do something like this. Yeah, let's do something like this. Let's give him a little bit. Let's give him a little bit of a butt. Okay, we're going to accept that. So it generated a face group on top, of course, but whatever. So now we just go in sculpting again. Actually, we'll cut the bottom off as well too. We don't need that much. Well, yeah, we don't need that much belly. He doesn't need that much of a belly. You can also establish the plane cut to differentiate between these groups, so it doesn't, you don't have to miss the feet when you cut through the belly, but whatever, I do. Just to make my life easier, I do. So now it's just a function of sculpting again, which is nothing really new. I'll probably go into not flatten, shrink smooth. For the most part, pretty high strength. And I'm just going to kind of work it around until I have kind of a basic body shape that I'm thinking will work. With the really high, like this is really high strength now. So you don't want to do this too much or you're going to end up getting rid of your whole form real quick, but it helps to just kind of use it as a quick, like this is what I want to do with this thing type scenario. That's about the profile I wouldn't mind. So then I'm going to bring the strength down a little bit so I can start working on this on the front here. And do it like that a little bit. Give him some sort of kind of shoulders to him. A little bit more of a blunt nose. You know, pretty simple. Just kind of figure out what you want it to look like, or don't. Honestly, you don't have to figure out anything really either. If you just want to pick it up and do it and see what happens. Sometimes that's the best projects, where you just artistically in there, like, is this gonna work or is this not gonna work? And sometimes you pop out some of the coolest projects. There's nothing to it but to do it. That's for sure. Just touch everything up a little bit, so then you can take a look profile wise. You know, yeah, I'm okay with that. I think that has a decent shot of working. So then you can try and get all fancy and stuff. You can get up in here and add some whatever. You do draw, real high strength with like a size like that. Oops, not that big. I mean, bigger than that, but not that tall. All right, something goofy. Something goofy like that. Got a little bit right here, needs to kind of come down a little bit, so we'll go in there, do a little shrink on that. And I kind of want the belly to be a little more keeled as it's going through the water. Want it to have a little bit more of a keel, so you know, so it kind of runs true in the water, similar to what a boat would do. So I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna probably flatten a little bit, kind of like that. Bring it into a keel. Whew. I got that set a bit strong, don't I? Yeah, 100%. See if that's doing what we want it to do. Kind of not quite as well as we want it to, so I'm going to try and do a shrink at a pretty high strength. Kick up the laziness a little bit. There we go. And then I'm just going to form this on the outside. Like that, and then I'll bring down the strength to finish it off, because otherwise I will completely destroy that thing. I think that's pretty well smoothed out. Oh yeah, oh yeah. We got a little bit of a V to her. Little bit of a V to her now. Yep, I'm happy with that. That should work well. Okay, so now I'm just going to, save it. Frog 1 design. This will be Frog 2 design. Save that, and then all I'm going to do is export it. 3MF same as an STL. Well, it's better than an STL, but for the purposes of anything, Simplify 3D reads them. Pretty sure Idea Maker reads them, or you can save it in STL. I'll just save that as a 3MF. I like those. They seem to hold more detail. So put that, save it, and there you go. You got this is going to be in one of the next videos. This will be printed out and put into a mold and then filled with plastisol, and I will fish it in the spring. So if that's something you're interested, or that's something you'd like to do, appreciate you watching the video. Hopefully I helped you out a little bit. If you have any questions on Meshmixer Sculpting, let me know. I'm not huge on the other parts of it, but MakerMuse has tons of videos out there to help you with Meshmixer. It's a great program. I really like it. It's free for download. I'll put the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Stay amped up and keep your filament dry.